Hello everyone, my name is Prolab Roy and I am a secondary student of Sustainability in Life, a master's program. Uh, as you see, my presentation title is Connecting Techno-Ethics, Sustainability and Internet, insight from podcast, article and lectures. So let's get started. Firstly, introduction. In this video, I will bring insight from our two lectures with additional notes and one article and on podcast. The podcast is the title is like thinking aloud, the internet, how it shapes the past and future, and the article is titled breaking the cornucopian paradigm towards moderate internet use in everyday life. And the lectures are lecture 1 and lecture 2 with additional notes. My goal is to show how these materials speak to each other and to us as well about the unsustainable and often invisible impact of digital technology. Uh, I structured this presentation in three parts, especially. Firstly, I will briefly introduce what I have gone through, the materials I have gone through, and secondly, the analysis and the analysis of the connection between these materials, what I have read, and finally, a risk analysis focusing on social media algorithm, especially. First, I will talk about podcast summary. The podcast mainly explain how internet is not just a tool, it actively shapes how we remember the past and imagine the future. Platform algorithm influence what information become visible, what information going to viral, and what visual get more views, and mainly the emotionally engaging content over accuracy or depth of the content. Now we can see that many content creator create content uh, emotionally or use visual in a way that over the accuracy, or they do not think about the accuracy or the depth of the content or the quality of the content. They just want to get more views or earn more money, like this. Actually, the podcast is about that. Actually, this affects our collective memory, especially like the uh, political discourse and even the field of history. They also mention that, actually. Next, summary of the article, actually. Secondly, I will discuss the summary. The article mainly challenges the cornucopian mindset. The mindset is the belief that more technology is always better, but it argues that unlimited internet use is unsustainable, especially environmentally, socially, and psychologically as well. And the sorry for the inconvenience. I got like a phase ahead. Uh, so the article is challenges the unsustainability, especially the environmentally, socially, and psychological unsustainability, and it's call for moderation to improve like the well-being and relationship and the privacy, actually. Next, uh, lectures. The lecture provide a theoretical framework. Actually, technology is like a never neutral. It reflects values and power structure as well. Power structure of IT, actually. Sustainability is not environmental. It is also social, economics, and ethical as well. So, and the designer have responsibility for long-term and systematic consequence of what they create, actually. That's what the insight from the lecture, actually. Next, the analysis of connection actually. Connection on the internet as an ecological force. The podcast shows how platforms like Instagram and TikTok reshape the history by promoting viral and visually striking content. As I already mentioned, that these days many content creators makes their videos and visuals engaging, striking content or emotional content that over accuracy or depth and quality of the content. That is what they are talking about in this podcast. This aligns with the Neil Postman idea from lecture 2. Technological change is ecological. It doesn't just add feature, it transforms entire system. In this case, our collective memory and the sense of truth. So it's gonna change and transform our collective memory and the sense of truth, what we think this is true or this is wrong actually. The podcast also highlights allowing out of professional history mirroring. That's what I found in lecture 2. Uh, about the digital imperialism. A few platforms control what history gets seen and obtained, reinforcing the Western perspective. A new insight also I found from the podcast that algorithm privilege nostalgia. Facebook on this day, which can fuel political movements built on like making things great again. For example, we can see that the election in US, Trump used the social media very effectively, and that also plays a very vital role to get his victory. This is a powerful like example of technopolitics that also connect in lecture 2, Langdon Winner's politics of artifacts. Next, connection to digital access and the cornucopian paradigm. The article directly links our always on digital culture to environmental cost, data centers, e-wastage, and energy use actually. These echoes in lecture 2 section on digital access, unnecessary high resolution streaming and hoarding, and the hidden impact of video on demand. There are some conflict as well. The article also focuses on individual behavioral sense using app lens settings boundaries. But lecture 1 and 2 emphasize systematic drivers, planned obsolescence, surveillance capitalism, and business model designed for addiction. This tension reflects Carlsberg's first law. Technology is neither good or bad, nor it is neutral. This problem not just user choice, it is design choices and economic incentives actually. Next, connection 3, the uh, algorithm bias and ethical responsibility. The podcast discuss The podcast discusses predictive algorithm like those used in grading or bail decision and warns about self-fulfilling process and loss of human agency. This also connects with the lecture 2's coverage of algorithm injustice and the risks of automated decision making. The podcast also adds that Helga Novatoni frames over reliance on algorithm as a loss of future making agency, a philosophical risk that goes beyond the bias. This ties into lecture on focus on human autonomy and digital ethics. The lecture also adds they connect these issues to surveillance, capitalism, ethics, washing and the economic structures behind the algorithmic system. The podcast also describe the problem. The lecture explain why it persists. Next, risk analysis, social media algorithm. In this section, I will focus on social media algorithm that personalize content. In the upcoming next 3 to 5 years, they may be like create three serious unintended consequences. First one is loss of independent thinking. Second, fragmented realities. And third, hidden ecological growth. So if we talk about like the loss of independent thinking, as algorithm become more accurate, user may stop seeking information actively. This may lead to like passive consumption and erosion of ethical thinking skill. Designer optimize for convenience and engagement, but they are not consider how this weaken human autonomy. A core ethical concern, I think, from lecture one. Next, the fragmented realities. Personalized feed can depend divide between like group, creating separate information bubble. This can damage shared understanding and social trust and democratic dialogues. It also reflects in like postman warning that technology can reshape society in unpredictable ways. And the final risk is like hidden ecological growth. Personalization like requires massive data extraction uh, 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 to data extraction as well as in this process leading more survey and more energy use and more emissions. This environmental cost invisible and digital services is the key concern in both article and the lectures what I found. A designer often prioritize performance over the sustainability. This is another issue, I think. These risks connected to the tarot cards of technology concept, they represent unintended consequences of systematic or system design with narrow goals in mind. Actually, next synthesis. What does this mean for sustainable designer actually design? What do these connection tell us? First, I think digital sustainability is multidimensional. It is like about informational integrity. The podcast, what I found, behavioral well-being in the article, what I found, and social justice uh, and ethics, what I found in the lecture. These are interconnected. Secondly, we cannot rely on individual action alone. The article call for moderation is a start, but the the lecture shows we need responsible design, and not addictive UX. Regulation, we need regulation like the EU AI Act. We need like a new business model, not based on data extraction. Thirdly, the history is like on warning now. Uh, the podcast shows easily facts are distorted online. As I already mentioned previously, that many creators give like misinformation, disinformation, and they don't care about like the authenticity or accuracy. So this gonna be like distorted in this way. The history, the lecture remind us that technology unintended consequences are often invisible and until it is too late, often invisible until it is too late. Okay, next. Conclusion, as designer and developer and user, we all part of this system. The podcast and article give us concrete example of what we are doing. These lectures give us a framework to understand why and the tools to imagine something better. Maybe the first step is to ask as Postman did, what does the technology undo? And as the article suggests, what would a moderate digital life look like and how do we design for it? Thank you for listening, and I'm curious about the connection other colleague found in these materials actually. Next. Uh, Next, I think we have like the um, peer review. In this peer review, maybe we will find comments and conflicting opinion about our colleagues, what they have found in their analysis. So I'm curious to hear about that.